So, absolutely. Okay. So, welcome everyone. Uh, so, for this wonderful webinar that we are going to have today, and before we start with the webinar, uh, I would first like to introduce the participants, the office bearers, and the governing body members present here of the World Union. And then I would request Dr. Ketaki to introduce our speaker today, and then the speaker would commence his presentation. So first, let me introduce our chairman, Dr. Soumitra Basu. So he's a renowned author, academician, scholar. Uh, he has written several books, and especially on consciousness studies, on psychology. He's also a psychiatric counselor. So a person of various many talents. And we are fortunate enough that he is our chairman, the current chairman of World Union. And under his guidance and mentorship, World Union will make strides. So, Dr. Basu, would you like to say something? And then
no, it's welcome to him, to Patrick, to Dr. Patrick. It is a very warm welcome we give, and we are eager to listen to you. We are eager to interact with you. That's all.
Me too. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you. I'm honored to meet you and know that you're here with us.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Basu. So next, I would introduce, here we have from the governing body. So the former, we have the former vice chairman of World Union. He is Mr. Ramesh Patel. He's logged in as Ramesh, and he's logged in from London currently. So half the year he stays in London, and half of the year he's in Pondicherry. He's an ardent devotee of the Mother and Sri Aurobindo, and even at his ripe age of 75 years, he still participates in the Auroville Marathon almost every year. Yes, he's that fit. So again, a great personality, and very fortunate that we have him with us, and he guides us. Then we have, so the vice chairman is today, she is in the USA, Leena De Chakravarti, currently. So she may not log in. I don't know. She's a little bit dicey. So I will move on to Mr. Suraj. He's the treasurer of World Union. So one of the office bearers. He is also here. And Poonamji, already you have introduced, mother of Dr. Ketaki. Dr. Abhinav also you have been introduced to. He's currently in IIM Bangalore, a very prestigious institution in India. And he's also a very ardent supporter of World Union. And we are very grateful to him for that. He participates in our events and classes and discussions. So Dr. Ketaki herself, so we have Dr. Ketaki. She happens to be, apart from, you both know each other, and most of the people here know her. But let me tell you that what many people do not know about her is that she is the goodwill ambassador of World Union. She is the goodwill ambassador of World Union. Yes. So, and we are very, very grateful to her for all her support. And in fact, today's webinar that's happening is because of her. So thank you, Dr. Ketaki. She is with the Manipal University, assistant professor. All of us know you, so I just skip that. Then we have Mr. Natarajan, the co-host, if you can see there. So Mr. Natarajan is he's part of the primary member of World Union, and he would be getting into the governing body of World Union soon. And currently he's spearheading the Tamil language desk of World Union. So World Union has many language desks. So we are starting. So we have a Tamil language. Tamil happens to be one of the most ancient languages in the world. And the Tamil language and the culture, it is a thing to be celebrated. And Natarajan is the right person that we have got here with us, the right resource, who is putting together this Tamil desk. So a lot of activities have been happening, and it will happen further. We have Leena De Chakravarti, the vice chairman of World Union, has just now joined in. She is in Fremont, California right now. So thank you, Leena, for joining. I was doubtful whether you will be able to make it or not. So, and then we have, so Leena is an Aurovillian. She is an Aurovillian, but currently she has gone to the US for a few months for personal visit. So we also have Mr. Ramendra Patnaik. So he has logged in a different name, maybe his daughter's name. So he may not be visible. So he's also part of the governing body of World Union. Mr. Ramendra Patnaik happens to be a very experienced advocate, lawyer of the Supreme Court of India, the highest apex court of India. So he gives all his support and legal advice and everything. So he's like an elder brother to us, and a very, very ardent devotee of the Mother and Sri Aurobindo. And he happens to be a third generation devotee, which means his grandmother was the first line of devotee of Mother Sri Aurobindo, then his mother, and now Ramendra Patnaik, and the fourth generation, his daughter, Rishika. And Nilima Bhatt, you can see one name here, Nilima Bhatt, Miss Nilima Bhatt. She's logged in currently. She's based now in Pondicherry, very near to our house where we stay and very near to World Union. She is now very closely associated with World Union, and I will tell you more about her. Currently, she is logged in from Mexico. She is there. So thanks a lot, Nilima ji, for logging in despite your hectic schedule. She is a traveler, born traveler. And she has founded a organization called Shakti Leadership. Shakti Leadership. So it's a huge concept, and we can get to know more about her from Facebook. I can share the link. So she is very resourceful, and Mother has sent her especially with all the Shakti to channelize the Shakti for World Union to grow and develop further. So I think I have covered most of them, except I would request Dr. Ketaki to introduce so I will introduce one more person, Shoma Shanyal, Indranil Shanyal. She is part of the Bengali desk of World Union. She is based in Kolkata, and she is also logged in here today, and she is very helpful and to us, and we are ever grateful. And Mausami Datta, I would probably ask, and Falguni ji, if she is still there. Dr. Ketaki, if you can say that.
Mausami Datta, I'm not sure.
Mausami Datta might end.
I see. Oh, wonderful. And Dr. Falguni Jani is a psychotherapist. She is an ardent devotee of the Mother and Sri Aurobindo for decades. And she has been, right now, she was in Pondicherry for a while. But right now she shifted to Bangalore, and she works with Yahalai Foundation. She's an independent psychotherapist, and she does integral psychotherapy. So that is about Dr. Falguni Jani. Should I introduce the speaker?
Yes, please.
Yes. So Dr. Patrick Beldio, MFA PhD, is a scholar and teacher of comparative theology with specializations in Hinduism, Sufism, and Christian spirituality. He teaches in the Theology and Religious Studies Department at the University of Scranton, serves as a research fellow at Georgetown University's Berkeley Center for Religion, Peace, and World Affairs, and is a core team member of Philosophy in the Arts and Philosophy, a cross-cultural research initiative on the role of the heart in artistic research and performance philosophy funded by the Austrian Science Fund. His current book, The Mother of the Sri Aurobindo Ashram, co-creator of the Integral Yoga, Lexington Press 2025, explores the transformative legacy of Mira Alfasa, a French Jewish woman who became an Indian guru with a global following. In addition to his academic work, Beldio is a professional sacred sculptor with a studio at the Franciscan Monastery in Washington, D.C. His artwork is held in private and public collections across the United States, Europe, and India. So now I give a warm welcome to Dr. Patrick Beldio, and I hand over the floor to him for his lecture. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you so much for that lovely introduction. And it's so lovely to meet all of the members of the World Union to finally put a face to a name with Ashish. And I'm grateful Ketiki got in touch with me to share, well, and all of the things we might share. I prepared some remarks, but I think depending on questions you might have and interests that you have, please, raise your hand. But what I thought I would do, I'll share my screen and show you my PowerPoint. And at any point, you can tell me or ask a question or slow down or something like that. I'm happy to. So this is an image of a sculpture of the new being that I created from 2007 to 2017. And next to it is the book that just came out. And so it kind of gives you a sense of these two projects that for me were kind of a culmination of my own learning and my own devotion. So I call this talk Sculpting the New Being from Duality to Divine Androgyny. In the paths of Francis and Clare of Assisi, Baba and Mehera, and the Mother and Sri Aurobindo. So this gives you a flavor, I think, of the three traditions that I've been learning from for the many last few decades, which is Catholic mysticism, a Sufi path that Meher Baba founded, and of course the Mother and Sri Aurobindo and the integral yoga. And so I thought what I would do actually is first help you understand what my discipline is about, which is theology, and it's comparative theology. So first I wanted to kind of help us understand what is theology. I'm not sure, Ketiki, is this something that is well known? Maybe I'm going to be repeating what people already know, or do you think this will be new information? Maybe you
this
can help
will be
me.
new information for sure. Okay,
well, good. Then it's maybe, I guess before I begin speaking about my work with Clare and Francis and Mehera and Meher Baba, the Mother and Sri Aurobindo, I wanted to share, what kind of work I do as a comparative theologian. But firstly, what is theology? So I want to root this word in what Jesus said in the Gospels. He said, the proper time, this is his main message, the proper time has been fulfilled and the kingdom of God has drawn near. Change your hearts and have faith in the good tidings. Now, I like this translation because the idea of metanoia is a Greek word that means change your hearts, but people typically translate it in English as conversion or repent. And I don't like that. I think it has a more negative connotation. And I don't think Jesus meant it to have the kind of connotation that repent has, which is a sort of shameful thing. And they didn't say believe in these good tidings as though you have to have a dogmatic belief, but he really said have faith, have trust in this good tidings. He wanted you to have an experience of this kingdom of God. So he, for me, is like a very much, I guess, harmonious with gurus in the East who are interested in experience more than just mental assent or belief. But anyway, the notion of theology, I think, is rooted in what Jesus is talking about in faith here. So this led actually in the tradition in the West anyway, this Greek notion of faith, which is pistis, became in Latin fides. And the classic understanding or definition of theology is fides quaerens intellectum, or faith-seeking understanding. So it's like having a faith of the heart that is seeking to understand it with the mind, I think is kind of how I think of theology, that you're beginning with some sort of experience of God, And then you're just trying to understand it for yourself and to make it understandable to others who share that faith or share that experience. So that's the first thing I would say, is to root it there. The next thing is, I would say, I'd contrast this with, notice that this is not belief-seeking certainty or belief-seeking argument, which unfortunately I think is characterizing a lot of what people are doing in theology these days, and why I kind of stick out like a sore thumb sometimes with my colleagues who are, I think, using theology to make an argument or be certain about things and what's right and what's wrong. And I'm not sort of interested in those questions myself. So my main influence in my study of theology was with John Donne, who I studied with at the University of Notre Dame, which is just down the street from the University of Michigan, at Michigan State, I should say. So we can talk about that. But this is something he says, which I loved about his definition. He says, I came to my own notion of insight as what happens when the reasons of the heart become known to the mind. It became essential for me then to explore the realm of the heart and to understand the human heart and the heart's desire. And so when you read his books, he wrote 20 books, and they're a lot about the heart's desire and its longing for God. And he's using Catholic mystical traditions to do his theology, but he does pass over into Eastern traditions sometimes. So I kind of learned about Eastern traditions first from him. You can hear the bells. I don't know if you can hear those, but I'm at the Franciscan monastery where my studio is located. So I would say this exploration in theology, it's applicable to any tradition that's seeking for more insight into its own revealed good tidings of the heart's desire. So that it's possible to speak not only of Catholic theology, but a Hindu theology, Jewish theology, Sikh theology, and so forth. Even an an integral yoga theology would be what I'm doing in a certain way. Not in a certain way, I'm definitely doing that. And putting that into conversation with Sufi theology and Catholic theology. So that might lead us to ask, well, what is comparative theology? And I think a good definition of that is simply faith-seeking insight and understanding across religious and spiritual boundaries. And that's been the fun joy of my life, doing it through art as well as through words. And I'll talk about that in a moment. Before I move on, I wondered, does anybody have any questions? Have I lost anybody? Or is this clear enough that I can keep going? And actually, I can't see. I'd have to stop to share, I think, to see if anybody had a thought. So I can keep going, do you think?
Yeah, please.
Yes.
Okay. So, and just to further, I guess, understand it, I think it's helpful to contrast it with other approaches and that are related to my discipline. There's a discipline of comparative religion, the theology of religions, and interfaith studies. These are approaches that I'm interested in as well, but I'm not much using them. So just to give you a sense of what these are, comparative religion, it comes from a neutral outsider stance and asks questions like, what are the similarities and differences between various traditions? And it can be valuable for understanding religious history, belief systems, but it tends to stay descriptive, tabling one's personal claims about truth. So you might all know Peter Heese's work. He would fit into this category. He's trying to table his personal claims. Maybe not for everybody that he maybe tables that enough, but I know that that's where he's trying to come from. It's more of an outsider stance. We're trying to do it from a historical standpoint. And I think it's a useful perspective to have, and I use it in my own work too. The theology of religions is kind of the opposite. It's when someone is within a single tradition, say a Catholic or a Vaishnava, reflects on how they see other religions in relationship to their own. Are they paths to salvation or not? Are they partial truths? This is a more evaluative method, using their own tradition as the measuring stick of the other. So I tend to stay away from this perspective. I don't tend to think that one's own perspective, one's own tradition is ever rightly used as a measuring. Well, I guess it's a complicated issue to sort of use your own tradition as a measuring stick of others, and I tend to stay away from trying to do that. Interfaith studies is, I think, helpful. It's focused on dialogue and cooperation, how people of different traditions can live and work together in harmony, often around shared values like compassion and justice. So it's a bridge building work that's urgently needed in the world today. And so this is contrasted to what I'm doing, comparative theology. It's a discipline that begins from within one's own faith tradition, but then dares to go deeper and deep into another, not just to learn about it, but to learn from it, even to practice it. It's about stepping into another sacred world with reverence, letting it speak and letting it allow us to stretch, deepen, or even transform our understanding of God, of truth, of ourselves, and so forth. And so for me, I'm kind of interested in using comparative theology informed by all of these approaches when it's helpful, but I'm also using the fine arts, and I'll talk more about that. So as faith-seeking insight across religious and spiritual boundaries, comparative theology really means listening across traditions, not to flatten them out into a sameness, but to recognize the unique radiance of each. And so this particular methodology or approach, it's porous, it's rooted, it's faithful but seeking, it's not relativistic but relational. It's deeply aligned, I believe, with Sri Aurobindo's and the Mother's call to integrate the truths of all paths into the unfolding of the divine consciousness on earth. In a certain way, it's kind of like kindergarten for the new humanity, for the new supramental humanity, I think, for us to start to think about how integration, the integral yoga, as a practice that maybe unconsciously is being practiced by all beings in a certain way, can maybe begin to happen, at least at the academic level. And so I have here a picture of the Venus of Willendorf, like an image for me of the ancient divine primordial Shakti. Because for me, that my formation, I want to kind of talk about that in Catholic theology and then integral yoga and then Sufism, has been a formation in a relationship with her across these traditions. So when I do my comparative theology, I'm really doing comparative theology of the Divine Mother, the Divine Shakti, and so forth. It's called by many names, of course. So I want to first talk about, in this part one, my spiritual formation in the Divine Mother across Catholic mysticism, the integral yoga, and Sufism reoriented, which is the Sufi order that Meher Baba founded in 1952. So first, my Roman Catholic formation in the Divine Mother began in Colorado, where I was born and my family is, and I wish I could go back and see these mountains more of. This is a picture of my father playing guitar with my sister and brother, and we used to sing at Mass, so we grew up with a lot of art and music and celebrating God through the arts. And so I was formed in the Catholic tradition with Paulist priests, and that led me eventually to the University of Notre Dame, where I studied as an undergraduate and was in seminary briefly. And the priests there are called the Congregation of Holy Cross, and that's their symbol. While I was at Notre Dame, I went to Italy and I met my family because my mother's side is Italian, and I met cousins and aunts and uncles and so forth. And I discovered Francis and Clare of Assisi, and I fell in love with Francis. I just realized that I was him somehow. I wanted to be more like him and so forth. And so I read everything I could about his life and went to Assisi to visit his shrine, his samadhi, we would call it, or his dargah. But it just radiates his joy, and I just loved it. So he also talks about God as a divine mother figure. And then this is a picture that the Renaissance artist Giotto painted of Francis being married to her. And he called her Lady Poverty. You can see her dressed in these kind of rags. And he felt that she was, she was the high and the low, and he married he wanted God in the highest and the lowest, and there was no, all those dualities sort of became one in his experience. So this is a beautiful, I think, image of Jesus and Lady Poverty kind of exhibiting or expressing the Divine Mother and the Divine Father, or the Divine Masculine, the Divine Feminine. And that's what, I guess, was the first introduction for me in my own formation in the Divine Mother, was through Francis and Clare. And they also, the two of them, embody that, the Divine Feminine and Divine Masculine. While I was at Notre Dame, I discovered the integral yoga. And it was through Bede Griffiths, who was a Benedictine monk who was from England, who found his way to India and was interested in Vedanta, and mainly a lot of different traditions, but Vedanta became sort of his main focus, I would say. And he's also interested in the ashram, he's part of the Christian ashram movement. I think he wrote like 12 books, and he wasn't interested in converting anybody. Like, I think that's what I was attracted to him, that he was really wanting to learn from Indic traditions and how those traditions could then deepen his own relationship to Mary and Jesus. And so I liked that approach. And so he spoke in one of his books about Sri Aurobindo, and that just, what he said was so sort of, I don't know, superlative, that I thought, well, I better read him for myself. And so when I did, it did not disappoint. And that was in the early 1990s. And I have been a student of Sri Aurobindo ever since. And I'll talk about later how I discovered the mother was sort of later, but I knew that she was a part of his life and that they were partners, but I didn't understand that partnership until much later, until I really dove deeply into both of their lives and work in my dissertation as a PhD student. So it was through Bede Griffiths, though, that I encountered this reorientation of yoga and Vedanta, and was so captivated, and have remained so ever since, and have had dreams of them and a relationship with them, and I can talk more about that too. This also, at about the same time I was at Notre Dame, I was studying Thomas Merton, who was an American Catholic monk, a Trappist monk, and I even visited his monastery in Kentucky with a choir. I used to sing in a choir there, and we sang with their choir, and we made music together, and we prayed together, and it was just a beautiful monastery. But it was through Thomas Merton that I discovered Sufism, just generally speaking, which eventually led me to Inayat Khan, who brought Sufism to the West from India in 1910. And Inayat Khan's order actually became enfolded or under the aegis of Meher Baba eventually. And so this is a picture of Meher Baba and his most closest disciple or Mandali member, Mehera. And she is a disciple, but much more. I mean, she really is his consort. Like Sri Aurobindo and the mother's relationship, there's an equality there. There's some, but there's also a sort of, well, I actually, this is the next project I want to do, is to write a book that would compare Meher Baba and Mehera with Mother and Sri Aurobindo, Mary and Jesus, and maybe even Sri Ramakrishna and Sri Radha Devi. That these couples symbolize something really differently, but also something the same at a deeper level. So anyway, this was the tradition that I ended up falling into even more. There's a center here in Washington, D.C., and I become a Sufi student, and we have a teacher, a murshida, or murshid, depending on if it's a male or female, and we currently have a male. Murshid Walker is my current murshid. And this tradition of Sufism has always emphasized Meher Baba's work as being collaborative with the Mother and Sri Aurobindo, because they're contemporaries with each other. And in my book project that I wrote on the Mother, I talk about some of that collaboration, I should say behind the scenes. I don't know that they were actively, overtly collaborating, but they're interested in a similar goal, which is to bring down the divine into matter and to transform it into a new substance. They have a different language about it, but it's really similar goals there. So those are the three paths. And just to briefly talk about my creative and theological formation, this is kind of across these three traditions. This is my sculpture and theology work, or my paths of images and words. And so this is kind of just my resume, which you've kind of gone over already, which is just to say I have a BA in philosophy, fine arts from Notre Dame, and a BFA in sculpture. And this was when I discovered my voice as an artist. I guess my sense of, well, what kind of work am I going to make? What kind of forms am I going to use? What are the materials? And I was off and running since then. And again, John Donne was important for that, because not only was he a theologian, he was a musician. And so he was composing poetry and music while he was also teaching theology. And that was really inspiring to me. I thought, boy, I want to do that too, where I want to have not words and music, but words and images. I went on to get my MA in Catholic theology, what's called systematic theology. And I wrote a thesis, this is here in Washington, DC, at the Washington Theological Union, it's called. And I wrote about how art is theology. I went on to get a master's in fine arts and sculpture. And I was at the George Washington University, and I wrote a thesis on theology as art, kind of switched that. And I created many sculptures for an exhibition. My main professor was H.I. Gates, and he was a member, still is a member of the Hare Krishnas. And so he helped me in expanding. The art world here in the United States and in the West is, I would say, hostile to religious and spiritual perspectives. And so he was a home for me, because he allowed me to talk about God in my art. And it's oftentimes you need to camouflage, at least during my tenure going through school, it was important to camouflage my spirituality in my art. And with him, it was not as important. I could be freer to express what I wanted to. So after this, I taught for a little while, and I then went back into school and got a PhD at the Catholic University of America, where Sri Aurobindo is actually, there's a tradition of studying him at Catholic University. And my dissertation there was on the creativity and art as a means for spiritual growth in the integral yoga. My Sufi teacher at the time, I asked her about what dissertation I might write about. And I thought, well, maybe I could write something on Meher Baba and Sufism. And she suggested, no, I think it'd be wonderful if you could do something on Sri Aurobindo and the Mother and the integral yoga, because people know more about them. And it'd be nice to sort of build on that knowledge in the world. So that was from 2007 to 2016. At the very same time, she commissioned me to make an artwork. Oh, which I'll mention in a second, that large new being sculpture I did at the same time as the PhD. I guess I put this one little image in because I wanted to acknowledge Francis Clooney. He's a Jesuit priest and one of the best scholars, I would say, in comparative theology. He's the father of comparative theology, I think it's safe to say. He's kind of set it on its trajectory and built the foundations for it. So many of the students of his have gone on to build on what he has created. And I'm in that tradition, in that academic tradition. He teaches at Harvard, at the Divinity School there. And I recently visited him there. He's doing wonderful work. And he's such a great mentor to me and to so many people. And he's so generous and kind. And so I just wanted to mention him. I won't go into anything else, but I just wanted to acknowledge his presence. And so like I mentioned, when I did the PhD, I also did the new being sculpture, this 40-foot tall, 11-ton sculpture that's in Walnut Creek, California, in our Sufi center, or our sanctuary that's in Walnut Creek, which is in the Bay Area. Just north of Fresno. I think that we have somebody from Fresno there. So let me know if you'd like to go visit. We have tours that we could definitely give you. So this also led, both the sculpture and the dissertation led to my first book, which is on the mother and just came out in this past January. And you've already mentioned this, but this also led to my being assistant professor at Scranton, a Jesuit school, another Jesuit school, which I'm enjoying. I'm a research fellow at Georgetown. I'm hoping to one day maybe teach at Georgetown. And I'm also a member of a cross-cultural research initiative on the role of the heart. And I'm going to Vienna, Austria this summer to participate in the work we're doing there. And actually, Sri Aurobindo and the Mother, as well as Nietzsche, are our main sources of inspiration for this project. So they asked me to be a part of it because of my book projects and my research on the integral yoga. And I'm also an artist, so we're having fun bringing all of these wonderful influences together. And so I guess this formation led to what I've already mentioned, my sculpture and this book. And I feel so grateful that you're allowing me to share this with you, because I feel like this is a culmination point in my life where these two projects, even though the sculpture finished in 2017, the book just finished. And I feel like those two things are really one thing, the book and the sculpture. And they are expressions of comparative theology, comparative spirituality, comparative art. And so I'll leave that there. And I guess the final thing to say is that what I've been doing is seeking union with the Divine Mother across these traditions. It's been a spiritual, creative, and theological formation of Catholic mysticism, integral yoga, and Sufism reoriented. And what I have found unusually maybe is that I live more in a third space. And this is what I guess different scholars talk about, a neutral space between traditions, cultural traditions, religious traditions, where people can meet and have a safe place to exchange experience, ideas, company, presence, the divine. And I'm finding myself, though I find that I would identify with a sadhaka of integral yoga as a devotee of Francis, as a devotee of Meher Baba. I at the same time don't feel comfortable being anything, or I find myself more at home, I guess, in this third space where the Divine Mother lives. I feel she is drawing me more closer into this place where all traditions come from and are going back to, and that we're living in an age where that pressure is even more intense, and it's very powerful and difficult in some ways, because some of us don't want to go into that third space because we're comfortable identifying with whatever costume we are wearing, whether that's Catholic, Sufi, integral yoga, Vedanta, atheist, you name it. But I think the Mother is asking us to let go and to let God and to become this new humanity through that. And so this is just my own personal journey and how I have come to it through art and words. So really why these three couples that I've been studying, as I explained, that each entered my life in natural, personal ways. And I can talk about that through dreams, sometimes through search, through art and study. And I have found that each pair enacts a shared divine labor to guide us all into that third space that the Mother dwells, and that each transform the very spiritual path to God, to beloved God, from what used to be, I think, an emphasis on external religious identification to what I think she's pressuring now, which is internal integration of all that we have within us, all of these traditions. So this includes the integration of spirit with matter, male with female, all the poles of duality, leading to a new third supramental substance, a new third supramental life upon earth. And so my previous Murshida, who passed away in 2023, Murshida Carol Weiland Connor, here she is with at one of her programs with children, she called the this manifestation of what these couples are bringing, descendant spirituality, which I really like, and I use this in my book. So if you read chapter 7, I have a big chapter, one chapter devoted to this notion of descendant spirituality. What is it? I think we're at a crucial stage of maturity that is being reached in the universe. It's now possible for the spirit, or we can call it the kingdom of God, the supramental, the silence. It's now starting to descend for the first time ever here on this physical plane. And this means that the transcendence of the world becomes transformed into transformation of the world. We're no longer, I guess, invited to transcend the world, but to transform it as we become realized. So a transformation of the spiritual path is itself being made possible, that until now it was characterized by an ascension, or we had to ascend from the body, from matter to spirit. It wasn't like we had a choice. I think it was that the matter was so atavistic, so dense, so hard that we couldn't transform it. Well, we've beaten it to death, literally over the centuries, over the millennia, that it's softened up. The mother talked about needing in the mother's agenda that the mind and the vital have been needing matter and needing thoughts and needing feelings over so much time that's now sort of plastic enough for spirit to come and not be just bouncing off. And so the mother, or I should say, Murshida Wyland Connor said this: the divine comes not to leave the world, but to be lived in the world. And mastery and servitude, I think, is the motto. This is Meher Baba's motto, but it sort of serves as a motto for all of this work, that mastery and servitude is the essence of all life and religious striving, not mastery in different forms of spiritual talk. We can say what we believe, but really it doesn't matter what we say. It's like what we do. Are we serving creation? Are we serving each other? Are we serving the divine at the heart of all? I think that's descendant spirituality. And so Meher Baba says this as I think, a good definition of it. To penetrate into the essence of all being and significance, and to release the fragrance of that inner attainment for the guidance and benefit of others, by expressing in the world of forms, this gross matter, truth, love, purity, and beauty. And our Murshid has often talked about truth, love, purity, and beauty as being principles on the supramental planes. That they exist on the supramental planes, they've always been there, but to bring those down, to express those in the world of forms, this is the soul game, which has intrinsic and absolute worth. And so the sculpture I made is symbolizing that it's a new kind of being. It's not a morality, but a new ontology, or it's a new way of being. All of these three couples, they point toward and demonstrate, they embody a new humanity, a human species beyond division of spirit and matter, east and west, masculine, feminine, God and human, God without form, God with form, Brahman, Nirguna, and Saguna Brahman, personal God, impersonal God. Like, these things are no longer divided. The new being is a union, not a compromise of all. I mean, it's a union, it's not a compromise. It's a union of all in all. It's human in form, it's God in experience. And so I'm worried about time, actually. So I have 3 more slides that sort of maybe get into a little bit more detail about how each of these 3 couples are expressing in their own unique way the descendant spirituality I just kind of outlined. But I'm wondering if it's good to pause here before I do that, or if maybe you have other questions, we could go in other directions. I'm happy to do that too.
I guess, Patrick, you can continue. If others, I have the permission of all the rest of us, then you can continue. And at the end, we can, looking at the time availability, we can ask, get into some Q&A session.
Okay, perfect. So the first couple, Clare and Francis, one could, I guess, say that they embody mutual poverty as a divine reversal. I like this because they both embody the sacred inversion of power through radical poverty, obedience, mutuality. I think they aren't really descendant spirituality proper because they lived at a time, I don't think, when the earth was ready for it, but they were incredibly able to embody it. They're sort of prototypes of it. So when you study their lives, you're seeing incredible resonances between them and Meher Baba and Mehera and the Mother and Sri Aurobindo. That they're not interested in going off into a cave and living in a cave or a monastery, living in a monastery forever and joining God and becoming in samadhi, you know, some sort of union with God. They really are taking that. They might go to a cave, but then they come out of that cave and they're trying to bring that spiritual realization into their relationship with the earth, with the poor, with the sick, with the leper, with the animals. And so they have that going for them. Their partnership, also the way they related to each other, defies traditional gender roles and reveals a mystical equality that's grounded in the humility of Jesus's life and Mary's as well. Clare's vision of, now this is something I would need to go into a little bit more. She had a vision of drinking golden milk from Francis's breast. And she did this. She took milk into her hands and she was able to see in this golden milk all of the universe. And it reminded me, I guess there's this beautiful story of Krishna, right? Of like when he was a child and I think his mother looked into his mouth and she saw all of the universe in his mouth. But in this case, he was the one with the breast. He was the one giving the milk. He was the one having the kind of divine mother. He always called himself a mother, actually. He never called himself a father. He didn't like that, interestingly. So he became a prophetic icon of spiritual androgyny, an image of what's called the alter Adam or the other Adam, or really the other Eve in a certain way. The two of them are Adam and Eve, Mary and Jesus. The new creature who combines them both, born through a fused complementarity. They shared life of ascetic beauty and obedience to love, which reveals the descent of the divine life into the brokenness of the world. And boy, the life, if you read any kind of contemporary descriptions of what life was like in this time in Europe, in the Middle Ages, it was a broken world. It was, I don't think we could breathe if we could go back there. You know, if we could do a time travel and go back to the Middle Ages of Europe, the amount of violence, the amount of, you know, sickness and so forth, there's people just trying to stay alive. Was amazing that he was able to do that. But I think together they enact a sacred reversal where vulnerability becomes power and communion becomes the path of incarnation of the divine. And the Divine Mother, the Lady Poverty, as he called her. So that's the first couple, just giving you a snapshot of each one. Meher Baba and Mehera. And he talked about silence breaking creation open, the silence that breaks creation open. Meher Baba was silent for 44 years. And this was an act of divine labor, I would say, culminating in what he called the breaking of the silence. And what he meant by that, I think, is what the mother meant when she broke that door, that golden door that separated the supramental planes from the physical planes. He talked about a very similar work. And that led to a new world entering history, what he called the initiation of a new cycle of creation. And of course, the mother called it the new supramental creation. Mehera, he called her the beloved of the beloved, was not just a disciple, but the mirror of divine love through whom his most subtle inner work was accomplished to manifest a new humanity and the descendant spirituality that it lives. Their lives together included sharing wounds. They were both in a very bloody car accident in Oklahoma in 1952. And so she even foretold this accident and she shared it. They both shed their blood on this continent He had another accident in 1956 in India, shedding his blood in India. So for him, it was a way to unite the East and the West with his own body. So that together they become a site of union of East and West, spirit and matter, through the mystery of companioned suffering. So in my own work, I want to do more kind of comparative scholarship about Jesus's crucifixion and the wounds and the shedding of blood that Mehera Baba did, as well as, you could say, as well as the suffering of the Mother and Sri Aurobindo, the fall that Sri Aurobindo had, the incredible suffering that the Mother endured in the Mother's agenda, kind of gets into that too. So like the Mother and Sri Aurobindo's supramental descent, Baba's silence and its breaking were not metaphor, but ontological. The divine entered form, time, and body through them. Together they reveal that the transformation of consciousness, where a new humanity is born through love. And then lastly, but not leastly, of course, the Mother and Sri Aurobindo. And these are paintings by a member of the ashram when I was there in 2012. So I don't know if she's still there, Tanya Vanagradova, painted these beautiful images of the gurus. The descent of the supramental light. Of course, I'm speaking to the choir here. The Mother and Sri Aurobindo made explicit the aim of spiritual evolution, not escape from the world, but the transformation of matter into divine substance. The overmental descent in 1926 and the supramental descent of 1956 marked the beginning of a new consciousness entering earthly life, not symbolically, but biologically and spiritually. Their collaboration was not hierarchical, but complementary, the masculine and feminine polarities unified in service of the divine work. The Mother's vision of the unsexed supramental body points not to erasure, but to integration, the fulfillment of the androgynous ideal as wholeness beyond duality. And so I think together they model the new being, not as theory, but as a manifestation emerging through the evolution of form. That means our forms and all forms. So I kind of think of them, all of these couples, I think, really as index cases or, ground zero of a pandemic, a new pandemic of love and supramental light. And I'm grateful to all of them. And I'm grateful to all of you to allow me to share this work with you today.
Thank you, Patrick. Lovely webinar, lovely lecture. So we have some time, so no worries. We can, a few minutes, so it's all right. So very nice presentation, Patrick. And so we are supposed to have a question answer session. So I have one, it's not a question, but I would like to connect you and Nilima Bhatt, who is here. I told about Shakti leadership, Shakti. So the third space, you presented a slide called the third space. Right. That is the mother space. So I guess that is Shakti, right? That is Shakti, symbol of Shakti, that space.
Correct. Yeah, that's right.
And that exactly is the space Nilima Bhatt is working on.
Yeah. Wonderful. Maybe you could see. I would love to hear more. Absolutely.
So this is what I had to say. Over to Dr. Ketaki, our chairman, and all others. Nilima ji, if you, she is in Mexico. She has written that she may not be able to speak. Her audio quality network is not good, but please. Yeah, Nilima ji has raised her hand.
Yes, I'm going to try. I hope it works.
Yes.
So good afternoon, good evening, good morning, everyone. Patrick, this is so delightful and so timely. And why are we not surprised? Because when you're in the path, the synchronicity just lines up and you're always in awe. As I was listening to you, the words that came to me were world union through sacred union. And this is a theme is so alive for me right now, because what do these couples represent? It's almost as if the energy that's needed for the ascension of earth and humanity is love, the vibration of love, divine love, to be able to have a sufficient critical mass of the vibration of divine love on this planet so that the rest of humanity and earth can rise into it. So how can that amount of love be held on this terrestrial plane? It's as if we need many such partnerships, spiritual partnerships between like the ones embodied by the three couples you shared. That's the thought that's coming to me, that is it time for as many such divine partnerships to now come together in order to hold the unity consciousness and its aspect of divine love in a way that creates the critical mass that holds the space, the third space, for the rest of humanity and the earth to ascend. So I just wanted to ask you that question. Has that thought come to you as well?
Yes, I think you're expressing exactly how better than how I might express it. So I thank you for that. I think also that these couples, they and many more, like I think Sri Ramakrishna and Sarada Devi should be in this conversation as well, and so many others. But they like I mentioned before, I think they are like, I see them as index cases or patient zero of this new pandemic of love, and that they are holding that, anchoring it on the earth for us. And because they did it, like the mother even said this, if it can be done in one body, it can be done in all bodies. And because it was done in these bodies, it's being done in our bodies, whether we know it or not. I think I take comfort in the fact that we don't need to repeat what they did, that they did it. And my sense is that we are meant to, at this point, as consciously and sometimes unconsciously, to align ourselves with this new descent. We're being pressured into it, whether we know it or not. And sometimes we react. The world is reacting, isn't it? In so many collective ways, violently against it. But I take comfort in the fact that it's a losing battle for them, for us who are rebelling. That the victory has been won. The victory has been won. And I think I want to say that as clearly as possible, that we don't need to decide or strategize, or that there's a sort of involuntary process going on now that we can align ourselves with. I guess that's actually what I get into in my book in the very last chapter, is the involuntary nature of the supramental manifestation on earth, that it's happening. We're in an evolutionary stage that's different, and it's going to be bumpy and rough, but it's going to be okay eventually. So
which is why I wanted to say the companion suffering can now be companioned ananda instead of suffering. And before we can get to companioned ananda, each one will have to find that androgynous self within. And then if there is a divine partnership, then we may find companionship, sahadharmi. This is the Sanskrit word, sahadharmi, right? The longing to belong can be fulfilled in a sahadharmi partnership, or even a collective of sahadharmis, right? But each individual has to make that journey to that androgynous wholeness within, a psycho-spiritual wholeness within, become that integral being within. And then maybe we come together in couples or in circles of more to hold space for others.
I agree. I love that. And so can you describe some of the work you're doing that's inspired by these things?
It's called Shakti Leader. Yeah, we'll do that later.
No. Please go ahead. Please go ahead. I was just trying to crack a joke, saying that if you go through all her work, it will take a day's time. But please go ahead, Niliman. Please go ahead.
No, but really, I think, Patrick, we have just been coming to the same thing in our own ways, a lifetime of it, right?
Yes.
So Shakti Leadership is the subtitle of the book is Embracing Feminine and Masculine Power in Work, in Life, in Leadership, in Business. And that's really what it's about, any which way to come into our Shakti, our wholeness, in order to find that freedom within and fulfillment in selfless service of the world. So we have all kinds of programs around the world. I work in with University of San Diego. I work with Skolkovo in Moscow, Russia. I work with here in Tec de Monterrey in Mexico, where I am here now for a keynote. So I also try and work with education and academia to bring these ideas as thought leadership with enough grounding in theory and and practice. So that's a nutshell. I'm happy to share more offline.
Yeah, I'd like that very much. Thank you.
Yeah.
Israel included, Nilimaji.
Yes, Israel also.
Is
The
it?
book Shakti
Okay.
Leadership is out in Brazil, in Portuguese, in Hebrew, in Israel, and of course in English and Russian.
Wonderful. Well, I look forward to diving in.
Yeah. Dr.
Over to
Ketaki,
others. I don't want to hog the time. I know we are also past time, but thank you for this time.
Dr. Ketaki.
Yes, I thank you so much, Patrick, for this beautiful presentation. You've taken us through your own journey, and I think that's taken us through our own journeys. I want to know more at some point. I mean, we don't have to discuss it now about your sculpture, the new being. Like, how have you kind of put it together? What is the base? Is it following evolution? Because I've looked at it carefully, but I want you to tell the others at some point.
I mean, I could do that
How
even
it's...
now if you wanted.
Yes, please.
Because I have the website. I can bring that up if people have time. I can just do that. And I'll share the screen. So if you go, you can also on your own time too spend more time, but Reunion Studios is the website of my sculptures. And this is me sculpting the head in wax many years ago. And so I have a video of it here and then images of it. And maybe I'll go down to the bottom and you can see a little bit about that, the symbolism. So the bottom it's actually this granite, this black granite ring is granite from Bangalore. And surrounding the bronze, the sculpture is all bronze, but it has gold plating on it and copper and nickel and platinum. But below it's all kind of dark colors and it goes from dark to light up to the top. And on the bottom you have all these different evolutionary forms, trilobites, snakes, geodes. We have lava from Hawaii. We have a bonobo monkey that's in the pose of the thinker, Rodin's thinker, but he's not yet in the total pose, and he's thinking about thinking, trying to think, you could say. And the garment here is symbolic of reincarnation, of all of the lives that we live that are going back and forth between good and bad and saint and sinner and male and female and so forth. And it's the garment of all of the lower motivational desires that this figure is being freed from, as well as the animal desires. But yet, even down below, this golden supramental light is manifesting among these animals. And you have all these different colors kind of symbolizing the different desires. And so you see here other things like, I don't know, ferns and ammonites. There's fish and water over here. And the broken rope that used to bind this figure to the lower nature is now being freed from that lower nature. And it's golden, supramental, orange, pink color is coming out through this change. So when you enter this building, you come down into the earth and then you take your shoes off and then you come into this grand entrance, this grand staircase And to go up around it, you see every level till you get to the top here, and you see the, well, you can see here how it's gold plated on the outside and platinum on the inside. And then butterflies symbolizing transformation, going into these clear acrylic butterflies, flying out of the head and out of the heart. And you can see them from below too, when you look up to the oculus, the way the lights hit them. So this picture. And those branches are there structurally to make sure I could put the butterflies onto them, but they kind of symbolize sanskaras that are being unwoven or unwound and being purified. And those butterflies are the energy of that purification that is going up to God, but also going out to the world in service to the earth, so that we're becoming this and it's androgynous. You may not see this, but over here you can see I actually sculpted it with androgynous genitalia. It's a nude figure. And so I looked at what does an androgynous genitalia look like. I actually went and just researched what a fetus looks like inside the womb before it's differentiated into male or female. And I just copied that. And so this is an image of that androgyny there. And so there's no nipples. The mother said there would be no nipples. There would be no need for animal sort of lactation. Actually, she talked about even no teeth, although I put teeth in this particular figure. You can sort of see the scale of this when you come around the sculpture and come into the prayer hall. I didn't get a picture of the prayer hall here, but and then there's lighting around it. This track lighting, we actually put pink gels, actually, so that I could maximize the red color, because of the golden red is, you know, how the mother described the supramental body. And it's difficult to see here in this picture, but that's kind of how we got it. We did it. And then on your own, you could watch this video that I did. It's an amateur video, but it's decent enough that shows you going around it physically. Ketaki, does that help?
That really helps. And thank you so much for sharing it with everyone, because I have seen this website, but I wanted everybody else to experience it.
Good, good.
I think we can hand it over to Dr. Basu.
Yeah.
So yes, thanks for a very wonderful presentation. Very delightful evening we had, and the new ideas that are coming, which is very good and shows that the light is spreading. The descendant spirituality is very important, because the word descent is so important in Sri Aurobindo's system. The word descent is very important. As you know that there are 5 types of descent. We discussed in the day before yesterday, which I had a session on Mother's avatarhood, where I described the 5 types of descent. So, and the last was the descent of the avatar, the supramental descent. So there is a descent of the superconscious into the manifestation. There is a descent of the impersonal divine. Then there is a descent of the personal divine. Then there is a descent of the jivatma into the psychic being. And finally, the descent of the avatar. So all the descents are important.
Lovely.
And the descent of the avatar is very important, because with the descent of the psychic being, descent of the jivatma, of course, the case is not closed, because our people, human beings, are helpless in the hands of the titans. And the Osuras, Rakshasas, Pishachas, they are very helpless. So they need someone who can show the way, someone who comes from above, but is similar to them. Someone who is the pathfinder. So someone is needed for that. And today, in today's world, which Mother and Sri Aurobindo has signified the dual avatar, the feminine and the masculine coming together. Because you see that the masculinity and femininity have to come together. This is the truth that we have to arrive. Until it comes together, then we have all sorts of deviations and distortions that are happening. Why is there so much increase in all these in sexual matters? We see all sorts of deviations and distortions are happening. I believe that this is happening because the masculinity and femininity, these principles have not been reconciled perfectly. Until they are reconciled perfectly, these divisions will occur. This will go on increasing until the reconciliation occurs. So that is why this dual avatar is needed. The masculine and feminine aspects are needed today. So it's very interesting that these things are coming out in different ways. These things are coming out in these different forms. These things are coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very interesting. Very grateful to you.
Grateful to you too. Thank you.
Thank you.
So after our chairman, anyone else would like to ask or have any clarification, or should we, with all your permission, because it's time also, we can end with a 1 minute silence. 1 minute silence. We can observe silence for a minute and conclude. So do I have the permission from all of you? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll let you know when 1 minute is over.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
blessings.
Thank you.
Blessings.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.